Before we start today's episode, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to tuning in every week to watch me have great conversations with product team members, startup founders, and entrepreneurs here in Japan and abroad. I never thought that we'd reach 20 episodes, but here we are. And it's really given me a lot of inspiration to keep this channel going, but I need your help. If you like the content that I'm putting out there, please share with some friends, like, subscribe if you can, and yeah, help me get the channel to grow. I'd love to bring on more exciting guests and see where it goes from there. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, in today's episode, I'm interviewing Nick Pittoni, who's the product lead at Mercari. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lee. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to interview you today because I got the tail end of your talk a few weeks ago for one of the AI events at Tokyo Innovation Base. And I was like, I have to get this guy on the podcast, man. You know, you had some really great insights about AI and in product, and I wanted you to share that with my audience today. But before we get into all of that, what I'd like to know a little bit from you is how you got into the role as product lead at Mercari.
To put it simply, this new wave of AI. So I've been in the AI space for quite a while now. I started mostly working in the space around 2017, but it wasn't that of a smart AI as we have today. So as soon as I noticed, right, the release of ChatGPT and LLMs, I immediately thought this was something completely new and revolutionary. So I was working at the time in our cross-border team here in Mercari. We are expanding globally, so we're releasing our product overseas so that people can buy from overseas, things from Japan and stuff like that. So I hadn't still launched at the time the first site. We launched in Taiwan and Hong Kong and Korea. And one of my tasks was to figure out the translation space, the internationalization space, and how to make the product global. So as soon as I saw, LLMs and how good they work, because personally, right, in Japan, you're used to Google Translate, and then you're like used to now it feels so long ago. DeepL was good, right? It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly you're like, this is perfect, right? The translation quality is unbelievable. And as a, basic Japanese speaker, using it a lot, I just thought, okay, this is something I have to implement into our product right away. So we were working at the time with some other machine translation companies, and just got with the team and we started experimenting, released our first translation features. And I just liked working with this technology so much that our team was getting created for specifically LLM and AI.
Mm.
That I was talking to our head of AI and I said, hey, you're looking for PMs in the team. Can
Nice.
I join you? And yeah, then I sort of joined this way, very casually, collaborating with them first to release stuff, to then yeah, working with them.
Incredible, man. That's an incredible journey. A lot of PMs seem to come from different backgrounds, whether it be business side or the technical side. So it sounds like you come from the more technical side. Is that right?
Actually, no, like I majored in economics. And so yes, there's, kind of like it's not even science. We do stats, like advanced stats, which
Mm.
is very relevant to LLMs and how they operate, but
Oh,
I
really?
wouldn't be able to recall any of the stuff that I studied. I learned all my technical understanding, I would call it, not technical ability. I'm not technically able at all. If you ask me to program something, I'll probably use cursor or whatever now.
Exactly.
Easy. But before, yeah, I am technical in the sense that I can understand and work with engineers, but I cannot, code applications and stuff like that. So
Mm.
I come mostly from economics then business background,
Mm.
focused on the business side. And then from there, I just got involved into building these solutions, actually the products. That was back at eBay. So we started building some stuff there. And Yeah.
Yeah, how did you get eventually get up into, e-commerce? eBay's a big e-commerce company, Mercari as well. So what is it about e-commerce that attracts you to it?
Hey, so that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I'm like big into one of my hobbies is gaming. So, as many folks here in Japan, and I've been gaming since back in 1990 or 91. I guess that's gonna tell you how old I am. Probably not so good, but and I've been collecting a lot. So I bought my first retro game. It wasn't even probably called a retro game. It must have been 2001, 2002 or something. I bought a Nintendo Entertainment System, Famicom cartridge from the US on eBay.
Oh boy, yeah.
I was, in my early teenage, and since then I've been amassing a collection. And so I've been a heavy user of eBay up to a point where I got account takeover by some Romanians and I stopped using it.
Oh.
And so after graduating from school, you're like, oh, what should I do? What should I work on? And I had done an internship in the tech world, so I knew I wanted to stay in the tech world.
Mm,
Then this eBay thing came out pretty randomly, and I remember I was sitting like in front of my house, and I'm like, do you want to get the car and drive all the way? I was like in my hometown, I had to drive like 2 or 3 hours to Milan to do the interview.
mm,
And I didn't want to go. And then I thought, fuck, but I used to use eBay, right? So probably talking to them would be pretty cool. So I just said, okay, I'll just go. I actually, I think it was pretty bad. I would have skipped it if I didn't have thought that. But anyways, I drove and I took the interview, and then they're like, hey, do you want to work for us
oh.
in eBay in Milan or in London? And I said, well, if it's London, I'll come immediately. So I accepted on the spot and somehow catapulted myself outside of Italy, where I'm from.
Mhm,
Worked there for 6 years, and that's where I got into product. And I kept my passion, for e-commerce, and I learned. I was in eBay, I think, in a very formative period,
mhm,
both as a PM and as a e-commerce, person. eBay was transitioning successfully and very early compared to everybody else into the mobile app space. We were one of
mhm.
the first apps, Steve Jobs showed on his new iPhone. Um, so I think that was all a lot of luck, a lot of luck. It was just like, should I go and talk to these guys? And then, my career in
It just blossomed from there, right?
chance and necessity.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, luck is a big part of, every successful person's journey, whether it be a founder or even in your case, being a PM, at eBay. That's incredible, man. So, at Mercari, right? You're the product lead. So, do you have a big team or what's this kind of situation like there?
I don't actually have a team now. I
Mm,
transitioned from having to join this team. I transitioned from having a fairly large team uh, to being just a quite high level individual contributor.
mm,
So I report directly, to our head of AI, and we are a small product team. We have three PMs. One PM is working on the consumer side of, the problem space. One is
mhm.
working on internal employee
Okay.
productivity and all that kind of stuff of AI, which is probably the most advanced at this stage.
Mm,
And then we have an RPM. She's focusing on the platform aspect.
I see.
So how do we build platforms and services that other teams can use to power, internal or external applications? So that's our team. It's a small product team. We have a very large engineering team.
I see.
Everybody is mostly backend or machine learning, or I guess you can call, these folks sort of LLM engineers by this point, or vibe coders.
Vibe coders, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the new term. Yeah. I mean, prompting, for example, this is a new position, like prompt engineering, right? Like it's something that's fairly new as well. So,
Personally, don't believe in that stuff, to be honest. Especially because you can prompt hack, right? You can use even if you have to create like a very complex prompt, you can just prompt a reasoning model
mm,
with your prompt and say, just make it perfect for this model in this context with this data. And they will build the best prompt. So maybe
Exactly.
I'm saying something wrong, but that works a lot.
It's weird how they all know so much about each other, right? How to prompt each other. Like you could tell ChatGPT to make a prompt for Claude and Claude to do one for ChatGPT. Very interesting that way.
Although it doesn't work every time. Like yesterday, I was preparing a workshop and we use Figma, right? And Figma
Mhm.
has the new AI features. And so you can prompt Figma to create like a design board or something, right?
Cool. I didn't know that.
And so I asked, I think it was O3 or 4.0. I'm like, this is the tool. This is what I need to do. Can you create the prompt so I get the best output?
Mm.
Maybe it was too broad, but it didn't work. It didn't
Yeah,
work.
did it? Yeah.
Maybe 20% good.
That's the thing with AI models, man. It's a lot of trial and error, right? It's a lot of just like, constantly trying new prompts and things like that and saying, no, this, because we always refining our own prompts. It's great. It's really, yeah, hopefully it will get a lot easier in the future, for
It'll
sure.
be vibe prompting.
Vibe prompting, exactly. Speaking of the future, man, like there's so many agents out there. There's so many like new advancements with AI. Like, how do you see AI impacting your industry, the e-commerce industry, and I guess product as a whole?
I joke, like my wife also works in tech. She's more on the business side. And I think last week I told her, look, in a few years, I don't know if it's going to be 10 or 20, we're probably going to be out of a job
Oh,
because the amount of the pace of innovation in the model capabilities, and now they're building all the frameworks for tools to work with each other and understand live data really well. Of course, not everybody will be completely, I think, wiped out from the industry, but you'll need just a handful of people working with AI, right? With the AI agents. And I think it's level 6 of the whatever AI classification. When you breach from L5 or L6 into the next level, then AI can start taking this decision on its own.
mhm.
So when we're gonna breach that part, I think then we're gonna start seeing a lot of us potentially out of work because it's easy now to be skeptical and say, hey, this, it's still. Remember when ChatGPT came out? It's like, that doesn't look like the output is very good.
Mhm.
It's like it's making so many mistakes and hallucinations. It still happens a little bit today, but you can rely on it so much more than it
Yes.
used to be 2 years ago. So yeah, so that's I think on the jobs. I think it's a bit doomsday, but I think for people that ride the knowledge space and get the skills and are in the right, you got to be also in the right, I think, company that still values human orchestrators. I think it's going to be then it's going to be fine. But I don't want to pass as a doomsayer.
There's a lot of those out there. Yes, a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. Industry wise, it's interesting. There's a lot of people that are saying, oh, we're not going to need e-commerce sites and apps anymore, because the users are going to be looking at the, chatbot application layer, and then suddenly OpenAI and IO and all the next generation glasses, you're not going to need a screen to even see something anymore. I don't see that happening so much. I still see the value of a lot of the either vertical e-commerce players or marketplaces, even generalist marketplaces, because there's a like inherent value of navigating and an ecosystem that cannot be generalized at the
Mhm.
chatbot layer. So I often say, like, when Google Shopping came out, you would like freak out and say, "Oh, Google is going to own the top of the funnel of, people are just going to come to our site and check out."
Mhm.
Did that happen?
No, definitely not.
Right? Sure. For some people, maybe they're not so precise in their shopping intent. They're gonna ask ChatGPT, can you find me, uh, an iPhone 13 that looks good and is not so scratched, and just buy it for me. Maybe 1 in 100 will do that, but not
Right.
every.
So let's say, for example, tomorrow you're given a slip and your job has been replaced by AI, right? What steps would you do to, I guess, find another job or upskill, and what would you upskill in?
Well, I guess a lot of my friends already have like their plan Bs. Some of them want to be farmers or open a
Oh,
restaurant.
really?
So personally, I probably want to find something different, right?
Mm,
Go into something not tech. If that's the situation we are in,
mm,
um, because it's inevitable. Um, you want to work on the prevention, not on the actual scenario. So you want to work as much as possible, I think, on preventing the situation from happening to the extent that you can. Because anyways, these AI systems need to be instrumented and like set up and orchestrated by someone for a very long time, I think. So you want to be where you have the skills and understanding. Doesn't need to be so technical either. Um, and right now, I think you get that a lot by just working with AIs a lot
mm,
on your own. I personally try as many tools as I can, and I try to build some stuff on the side using them. I don't have as much time as I would like to, but um, if that situation really comes, it depends. Depends. Is it next year? I'll try to get more skills.
mm.
If it's in 10 years, then I'll probably seriously consider my plan B and open a pizza shop or, learn how to make sushi and go back to Italy and open a sushi restaurant.
Exactly. You bring up a good point because a lot of people will have to get back into those like kind of blue collar jobs or those jobs where they're interacting with people more. Because if everything is, being automated for us, we need more people that will want to do those type of jobs, right? And
Yes.
maybe it'll lead to more happiness. Who knows, right?
People are gonna do what they like more, or it's gonna be back to farming or something.
Exactly. Maybe people can actually follow their real passion and not the made up passions that they always think they have. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's a very scary time, but there is something to be said about the product role. The product role is mainly a communicator, right?
Mhm.
It's somebody who is, the glue of an organization, usually, the business and the tech side together. You're kind of in between, making sure everything gets done on time. So do you think that the product role itself will ever be replaced by AI, or do you think that that role will probably be one of the main roles that oversee the organization and the agents that are going on?
I definitely see there's gonna be a team of agents, PMs, and a few PM agent managers who are human. Maybe some of them are actually gonna be also agents, but yeah, it's a good question. I think I come from organizations where we used to have, 50, 100 PMs of all different levels, from junior to senior. Unfortunately, the reality is it's going to be difficult for junior PMs, I think,
Hmm. Yeah.
just like in any other tech role. And the PM in general is not as safe. I think PMs would like to hear that it's safer
Oh, really?
compared to engineers or compared to designers. I don't think so because, with the recent reasoning model advances and the ability to, instruct models to use tools. Just imagine your job, right? As a PM, you have to be plugged in into the communications, like you said. What happens? Email, Slack, meetings.
Hmm.
An agent could do that, right? They could be listening to all these conversations.
Mm,
And then they need to look at the product launches and how those are going, get the raw quantitative data, the user feedback, social media monitoring. I don't know. Can the AI agent be instructed to do that?
maybe.
Probably yes, right?
Yeah.
And actually, the scale of the overview that they can have as an agent, or you can instruct thousands of agents to do that at the same time, is
Mm,
going to be so much better than one PM going on Twitter and looking at how their product launch was and summarizing all the thousand of tweets saying that that part sucks or doesn't work. And then you're gonna have the development and design part, which is like take the stakeholder direction, the strategy set by someone at the top, take the customer needs and all the data points, and evaluate multiple parallel solutions and reason on them. One or more models can reason on them and come to a consensus of what is the next priority to be designed or built. That can be done by the AI in the future. Maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 20 years to get there. But I think it can be done. So there will always be somebody that has the kind of human touch of seeing if everything that's coming together
Hmm.
makes sense. So we do the vibe checking right now of the output of the models, right? So it's going to be, you're not going to vibe check the text that the model outputs. You're going to vibe check the decision and the command queue, right? The queue of
Hmm.
commands that are going to be triggered if you approve what the models think is the next good move. And that can be a PM, that can be a sales manager, it can be it can even be a CEO, right? A CEO, um, they don't have so much insight into all the customers, what they're saying, all the stakeholders, all the
Hmm.
meetings happening. But if you instruct an AI to have all of these to the depth, maximum depth possible,
Hmm.
there could be a CEO AI, right? Or it's not going to be an AI CEO agent. It's going to be the CEO's AI assistant, which is trained on all the company history, on all that's happening, all the customer information. So it's all going to be for the better, but surely we're not going to need huge organizations like we are realizing right now, and people are, freezing their hiring and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. So a lot of money is just going to funnel all the way up to the top. You know what I mean? Like all the money that they're saving while all these employees are being replaced is just going to go right up to the top. Wow. You know.
The unfortunately, it's probably going to go all to the AI model companies or
That's right.
the Googles and the who are going to have the most advanced systems.
Mhm.
I think, but who knows?
Do you think there's a little bit of an arms race going on right now with regards to all the AI companies? And do you think we're going to eventually end up in a situation where one of them ends up being the number one thing everyone uses, and we have a situation like Google is being a monopoly?
Well, I mean, the space is very difficult to comment on, and I don't even know if I'm the right person, but my opinion is no. It depends if you're looking at it from the consumer perspective or from the enterprise corporate kind of productivity perspective. I think either in both, there is still all up for grabs. Recently, Google upped their game, 10x versus
Mhm.
before. But you see it with the models, right? The models, there's Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Mistral, I don't know, you name it.
Mhm.
They're all always catching up to each other all the time. So I think um, the true winners will be, and there will be multiple ones, will be the ones that on the consumer side are able to crack the adoption.
Mhm.
So there's the concept of crossing the chasm, right, in adoption or
Yes.
product.
Mhm.
It's much more likely that it will be people like Google or Meta because they have such an adoption advantage
Mhm.
with WhatsApp and devices already like Meta glasses or Google with their Google search. So that's one of the risks. However, the execution for these companies, I feel it's going to be very difficult. I think Google is moving in the right direction recently because they had the difficulty with competing with their own search, but it seems like probably they have a good way of solving for that.
Mhm.
But then on the enterprise, you see it on the enterprise layer. You have Microsoft with Copilot. You have a lot of the most. I think the most use tools. One, of course, is Copilot, Microsoft, because they have the adoption also in the enterprise. But then folks like what is it, Cursor and Windsurf, they just got so Cursor has the same adoption as Copilot, right? A
Mhm.
company that didn't exist, what is it, 12 months ago? I don't know when it was founded.
It's relatively new. Yeah.
And Microsoft, who has been there in the enterprise since, I mean, I worked in enterprise products at Microsoft. So there's going to be multiple tools, but I think they mostly converged in the way they're used the most. So for the consumer side, it will be adoption. Who gets the adoption cracked easily, and who gets the enterprise go to market best?
Mhm.
And certainly folks like Microsoft can do that because you remember Slack, right? Did Slack become the winner in the what is the chat for companies? No, that was Microsoft Teams, right?
Right.
It kind of sucks, but they have the distribution power that allows them to do it. I think maybe on the enterprise it's going to be different because the engineers are choosing their own tools.
Mhm.
Some of our team members, they're like, oh, I use Devin, I use Jules, I don't know, from Google now, or I use Cursor. Everybody kind of chooses their own. We're all experimenting, but I think there will be a convergence into the best ones. And if the big enterprise players like Microsoft end up converging, like just Google is catching up on the consumer side, then if they still retain the strength in the go-to-market distribution, they have a high chance of winning. And they can always like, Cursor could be bought by somebody,
True. Yeah.
things like that. Anyways, I talked a lot.
No, no, it's okay. No, it's a great answer. Yeah, I think that it's going to be very exciting times. I just hope that, as society, we don't get caught up in, getting screwed by all these big companies, right? Because right now, as a developer and entrepreneur, if you use like AI in your product, you have to pay like, these companies for these models. So they're making it off of developers, they're making it off of the general public, they're making money in so many different ways. It's a really great business model, but so many companies are now dependent on it, right?
Oh yeah,
They're super deep.
absolutely.
That's an issue, right? That's a big issue where you have all these companies, all these new, great innovative products that are now feeding money into the monster, right? To, keep running them. So,
And they're getting into this with the tokens, right? So right now it's for them is a loss-making game, and the equipment, the energy, the Blackwell chips from NVIDIA, all these costs are exorbitant. And you may be Google, you have maybe a lower cloud cost base, but for the ones that don't, we're gonna get squeezed out because
yeah.
here's so many free tokens, or the cost is going down so much. At some point, who knows if there's going to be a monopoly, near monopoly, or a duopoly, or a few players, they could raise the token cost, or they could make the next advanced model to cost 10x more than instead of 10x less
Hopefully.
at some point. I think, we gotta trust the honesty of like a lot of these companies, especially when there is competition. You can see Google, right? All their latest models are the cheapest and some of the best.
Mhm.
But you've seen it with e-commerce as well. When Amazon used to not win in the kind of online retail space, they kept their products cheapest across the board. And I think there's like research and articles that demonstrate how now that people are locked into uh, near monopoly in some cases of like new online retail product buying, a lot of the products are costing more than compared to many other channels and providers. So that can always happen, I think, with models and AI as well.
Yeah, all costs are going up, but hopefully us consumers won't be too affected, especially if we don't have jobs, right? How can we pay for all these things, right?
That's where it starts to get like philosophical or almost ethical, and you have like you just need to believe in humanity, I think.
Yeah. Look where that's got us so far, Especially in my country, it's going out of control. But yeah, man, I'm from US, obviously. But yeah.
I sort of yeah guessed it.
Exactly, exactly. But no, so I wanted to just ask you about, where you think I guess, e-commerce, how e-commerce will innovate in the next couple of years, right? With AI, with all this stuff, right, that's going on. How do you think it's going to change? Right now, you go to many e-commerce websites, it's quite the similar layout, it's a similar buying experience. Do you see that experience changing at all?
Yeah, for sure. Users will expect things to work out a little bit more magical with their apps as they are used now with, searching. I mean, you probably, I don't know which search engines you use, but I personally don't use Google anymore, right? I'm using Perplexity 90% of
Yeah,
the
me
time.
too. Yeah.
So if I go back to Google, I know they are releasing all the latest AI stuff very soon, but if now I go from Perplexity to Google, I feel like a lot is missing, right? I need to scroll and find a lot of things. So it's the same for e-commerce. I think across the application stack, something will have to change, whether it will be, conversational commerce finally happening after all this decade of talking about conversational commerce. Um, I think we'll have a new application layer which we have to cater for. So like Google Shopping came out, right? There's going to be OpenAI ChatGPT shopping. There's going to be Gemini shopping. There's going to be Perplexity shopping. So e-commerce companies need to get their products ready for these AI models to get the best information to present it to their users, and then they have to provide the API, the new APIs, which are now called MCPs. The
Mm,
MCPs need to be ready for these models to work so that, like you've seen probably in the Google I/O, where they're buying a dress using Gemini, I think, and then everything happens within the Gemini ecosystem. So there's going to be this new funnel, I would call it, right? New funnel, which potentially cannot happen even like in our application space. So we have to get ready for that, and meanwhile still continuously innovate because I don't think personally I don't think there's going to be either or application. It's going to be the user, right?
mhm.
Maybe my son prefers to shop with Gemini, but my mom prefers to just go on eBay and search for the things in the old way because that's the one she knows. And we have to provide AI capabilities that help make that experience much more smoother and simple. And it's totally possible. Um, so it's very exciting times to be in the e-commerce space because as a user and as a builder of the product, it will change so much more positively for consumers. It's going to be great.
It's a definitely exciting future ahead. Hopefully, Mercari leads the way as one of Japan's only unicorns in the past couple of years. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, Japan hasn't had as many unicorn successes as other countries around the world?
Not such a Japan ecosystem expert, to be honest, but I can make a guess. Probably it's difficult to have the global footprint, right? I think you can achieve, it's easier to achieve the unicorn status when you can clearly demonstrate you can have a global footprint.
Mhm.
And we have our own global footprint, right, in US and now also with the cross-border side of Mercari, we're expanding to many other countries. Unfortunately, like a lot of, I would say it's either the startup ecosystem and maybe, I don't know if it's maybe the ambition, I guess, of founders in Japan. I would imagine a lot are just happy to work on the domestic
Mm.
space
Yep.
because it's big, right? Japan, 120 million people. If it works for 120 million people or a subset of it, it's still going to be a huge company for you. So it's hard for Japanese businesses to play globally. It takes really like a lot of bold guts to do that. Maybe that's why. I don't know if that makes sense. I can
No,
speak on.
yeah, 100% makes sense. That's what a lot of foreign investors have said as well with regards to investing in, Japanese startups. They just don't want to go global. Like they don't have to, you know.
Because I think the skills, the creativity, being on the latest technologies, Japan is clearly there.
Mhm.
especially on the hardware side, and software is pretty good anyways. I think people make a lot of fun of Japanese software, but it's that way and it works for the population, and it's probably hard to adapt it to global. Yeah, that's on the software side. It's harder to adapt something that works really well for the Japanese consumer or enterprise to overseas for sure.
Right. That's why localization companies and like freelancers and stuff will always have a job, right?
Yeah.
For companies coming in and companies leaving Japan because it's very different. Very, very
Well,
different.
with AI LLM, I mean, we'll see about that.
Yes, yes, but I do think though with Japan, there's that subtle nuance that I don't know if they'll ever get, right? The cultural things that you only need like a human form to really understand. So who knows though? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see
Mhm.
where the future goes.
Yeah, the cultural nuance are very strong. Yeah, I agree.
Very, very strong here. Well, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you about AI, your time at Mercari, and then also e-commerce. It's been amazing. And, we have actually a closing tradition on this podcast
Mm.
where the last guest has left a question for you, and you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready for your question?
Should it?
All right, all right. So actually, this is a great segue into Japan. So, what do you think of the economic situation in Japan, and has it had any impact on your decision to continue living here? So, the weak yen, we have the declining population, right? Why Japan?
This is a difficult question because as being trained in economics, I should know a lot more than I actually do
Mhm.
about the struggles of the economy, and I actually am not so into it. But and also from a, I think some of us in tech and like these kind of jobs are a bit from a privileged perspective. We don't really see, we don't understand the struggles of, like, I think I can remember like yesterday, I'm studying Japanese, so I went to Japanese school and I was talking to our sensei. There was the word about the cost of living, and I remember I forgot the word. It's like I think buka is like the price of goods, or anyways, the cost of living. And I was telling like my sensei was asking me, so do you still feel like the quality of life in Japan is pretty good, even in this economic situation after you've come to Japan and everything? And I didn't hesitate to say, yeah. I mean, it's the quality of life is still amazing here. But for we don't understand like who's been here for 30 years, right? Who's been here when the lost decade
Mhm.
kind of came out, and the stagnation of salaries and all of that, right? So it's very hard to answer, I think, this question. Coming from London, being in a privileged, I think, tech role and all of that, I would still say absolutely the quality of life is good. The economy is bad. Personally, it has some impact. Like, for example, this year we're not traveling back to Europe. We're not gonna go see our families. Families are gonna come travel to us because, yeah, I mean, going back to home in Italy used to cost whatever $10,000. Now it's 15, $20,000 because also other
Mhm.
costs are overcompensating, right? Like the cost of traveling after COVID and things like that. So no, I don't want to spend all that money. And the yen is very weak when you earn in yen.
Exactly, yeah.
Your position, when I came here 3 years ago, I lost, what is it,
Yeah.
30% purchase power. So that impacts, but it's kind of like, yeah, first world problem, I think, or yeah, privilege problems to think about. I think what's good is what we do in our business. Like we try to enable people to recycle goods and have a secondary market for their products, sell, earn some money on the side, or buy it cheaper. That's always been one of the things that has attracted me a lot to marketplace companies. So I hope I hope a lot of people can kind of like tap into that, um, and get some support. Was that where you were trying to?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if to sum up, do the benefits outweigh the drawbacks of living in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. I'm coming from London where, the cost of living has gone through the roof. All my friends are complaining about it. Everything, supermarkets, restaurants, so much rents.
Yep.
I'm sure here as well, but I feel because Japanese are used to things being fairly stable, even a small change for them is a lot. The inflation has been lowered compared to
Mhm.
peaks in other countries.
I'd have to agree. I mean, literally anywhere but my country do I want to go back. So that's why literally
Yeah,
anywhere.
US is still gonna have some inflation now, apparently, right?
I'm good with that. Yeah, for sure. I'll stay here. So my yes, now it's your turn to leave a question for the next guest. Yes. Any question.
I always ask as a fun question, when do you think AGI is gonna come?
Oh, okay. When do you think AGI is going to come? Excellent.
Diction, or just to keep it fun, when do you think the next person interviewed is gonna have to work on their plan B job?
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, let's go with that one. I think that's a good one. When are you going to have to start thinking about plan B because AI is going to overtake your job potentially.
Or when is plan B? Or
When
when
is
is plan
plan B? I like it. I like it. Well, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for your time. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best way to do so?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't use Twitter or that other kind of stuff. So LinkedIn, yeah. Feel free to
Uh,
contact me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll link
Thank
it
you
down.
too much, Lee.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to share your PM stories, challenges, struggles, or insights with us on a future episode, please get in touch with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you on and keep this conversation going. Until next time, happy building, everyone.